These are the newsletter metrics that actually matter, especially if you are a founder or business owner and plan to make more revenue through your email systems. You need to focus on these metrics. My name's Trey. I run Akari Social, and we help founders build newsletters and back-end email systems completely done for you. So if you're interested in that, take a look at the first link in the description where you can implement our system for completely free for 30 days. So first up is open rate, and this is by far one of the most important. You need to be sure people are getting and receiving your emails and are, of course, actually opening them. So on average, industry average for all of the following is what will be presented throughout this video, but 29 to 40% is the average for open rate. Anything below or anything above that, you're obviously performing. If it's above, anything below, you need to improve. Likely there are deliverability issues. Top tier, really top tier newsletter agencies are able to operate at around 54 to 65% for campaigns. And then automated flows, welcome sequences, things like that can easily reach 65% plus. So keep that in mind. As far as click-through rate, industry average is about 1.3% for campaigns and then up to 4.7% in the top 10% of newsletters. Automated flows, of course, are going to be higher. Usually see around 4 to 5%. Top performers can easily get 8 to 12%. But again, those are top performing flows. Overall benchmark to aim for between 1.5 to around 2.6% is a good industry average click-through rate that we see. That's usually a benchmark of saying your list is active and engaging with your emails. Next up is the survey form completion. So after someone signs up to your weekly or signs up to a lead magnet, they're then prompted to a survey. Oftentimes, the average completion rate is around a 5.6%. High performers are able to get to around 15%. And we've even seen 25, 30+% completion rate. Of course, there's an exception with flows. Sometimes those can be a bit higher, around 17%. When it comes to bounce rate for your newsletter, you want to benchmark or aim for around 2 to 2.5%. But honestly, 1% is where you want to be depending on your list size. This may be hard to do, but you want to operate, and at least all of our clients that we work with operate at 1% and below of a bounce rate, which is, again, ideal. That is the golden standard you want to hit. Next up is webinar metrics. So webinars are pretty important, especially for founder-led businesses if you're launching a physical product or maybe launching a new service you're offering. And what's important to understand is that email is absolutely, and SMS is the backbone of webinars. So nailing these metrics is super, super important. These are industry standards. So first of all, registration page conversion rate, good, 20 to 35%. Elite is 40 to 60%. If it's low, we have noticed fixing headlines, form length, call to actions, or including or incorporating urgency is how you fix registration page conversion rate. Next up, the open rate, 40 to 60, as I mentioned earlier, is good. Elite can get from 60 to 75%. And if you want to fix this, it is all in the subject line or it's in the deliverability. It may be a deliverability issue. Look at those two things. Show up rate. For live webinars, 20 to 30% of total email subscribers should be showing up, and elite level 35 to 50% are showing up. If you do not have these metrics and you want to get to that elite range, fixing with reminders, incorporating clear value, not unclear value, and then also being sure the timing is convenient for the viewer. Where is your audience from is probably the most important part that you need to know and metric you should be looking at. Be sure you understand your demographic. That's pretty basic marketing, but a lot of founders forget this because majority of people are coming from the United States, majority of the time, but not always. Watch duration of the live webinar, good 35 to 50%, elite 60 to 80%. Oftentimes, weak hooks, it's too long, it's too slow, too pitch heavy, not enough value offered throughout the live masterclass, or even not even engaging with the chat is oftentimes what ends up or results as people ending up in that 35 to 50% view duration. Live engagement rate, I just mentioned this, but good would be 10 to 20, elite 25 to 40. The way to fix this is to call on people. Be sure your pacing is proper and be sure you have prompts for people to interact with. Be sure you have incentives to provide people. Again, that's the easiest way to end up in the elite for live engagement rate. Call to action, not super important. I'm going to skip to replay watch rate. This is where email absolutely kicks ass, because for a good reply rate, 15 to 25% is industry average. But if you have a good email sequence on the back end and good SMS reminders, you can easily push 30 to 40% on a low end for the reply watch rate, even for those that already attended the live webinar, which is pretty absurd and ultimately will lead to a lot more sales if that back end post flow is set up properly. So the fix, be sure it is a strong replay email. Be sure there's urgency, meaning some sort of timer that this will run out in a couple of days or a couple of hours. And be sure it's not too late after the event. It should be pretty prompt after the event has ended. Anything before 24 hours is usually the ideal spot. Cart abandon rate, this is awesome. If you're selling a product, you can actually do, hey, you left this in your cart, but for digital products. Yes, you can do this for school communities. Yes, you can do this for WAP communities. Yes, you can do this for your high ticket coaching. The options are honestly unlimited. So acceptable percent rate would be 60 to 70% cart abandon rate. People coming back to the product is what you're aiming for. And these are not uncommon at all. I mean, usually abandon rate emails perform very well. The person clicked on that product, on that page, on that school community for a reason. They were interested. You just need to follow up with them. And oftentimes having a cart abandon rate is that final pushover for somebody. And lastly, sales attribution. Be sure you're tracking where these links are coming from. Whenever we track webinars, we're using UTM links and form fields to track. We can absolutely talk about in a separate video, but UTM links are a great way to track where your traffic is actually coming from. Next up, founders are almost always missing the following email flows. I'm just going to go through these really brief. Lead magnet download to offer flow. Post call show up plus a nurture sequence, usually around 3 to 5 total emails, just as a reminder. Post call follow-up sequence after the call is closed. We have found that sending a Loom video within an email after the call, kind of summarizing what happened, is a great way to get someone to book another call or check out or make that final purchase. People sometimes just need more, information. They have more questions. It's almost like a check-in, and having some sort of Loom video for no call closes is a great way to increase sales. Abandoned call booking flow, customer onboarding flow, post-purchase flow, testimonials and case study request flow, re-engagement cold lead revival flow, newsletter to school community join flow. I've gained over 1,000 plus members from having a newsletter to school community join flow. These are absolutely killer, and it is only 2 to 3 plus email total sequence pushing people to your school. It's super, super simple and super easy to set up. Lastly, check out abandoned sequence if you're selling some sort of digital product. So those are a couple of emails that founders often forget. Last couple of points: newsletter automation and flow metrics. Now, talking about newsletter automation and flow metrics, these are typically seen for people who have a welcome sequence or someone who has a school welcome sequence. These are the metrics you want to shoot for. Welcome series should be 60-80% open rate. Click rates in a welcome email around 8 to 15%. Conversion rate from the welcome email around 1 to 5%. We usually aim for around 6% plus at a minimum. Be sure you're tagging all clickers that show interest for later upsell opportunities. And lastly, checking deliverability. The tools that we use are Mail Tester and Mail Meteor. I recommend you do the same to optimize your welcome series flow. Newsletter list building benchmarks. So landing page opt-in should be around 20 to 40%. That's industry standard. For e-commerce, 35% is a minimum. But for founders, creators, usually 20 to 40% is the standard. Web page opt-in, around less than 1%. Lead magnet landing pages, 35 to 50% is ideal. Referral conversion rate, tripwire product. I'm not going to speak about those, but those are also pretty important if you have them. Newsletter list building benchmarks. This is the final part. Sponsorship rates. I get a lot of questions about this, but top newsletters, $500 to $1,000. Lastly is newsletter sponsors. I get asked pretty often, how much can you make from a newsletter? And so this is a quick breakdown. So oftentimes, top of newsletter, something that is like a banner at the top of your personal newsletter, you can charge anywhere between $500 to $1,000 per newsletter. Midsection is usually around $250 to $500. podcast spots, 200 to 250. And ultimately selling qualified leads, I mean, you can sell them for 5 to 200 per lead if sold to sponsors. Sparkluve and Beehive boosts are usually around 50 cents to $1 per subscriber that clicks the link or clicks the ad. And then online business profit margin, usually you want to operate around 40 to 50%. And that can absolutely be made from a newsletter if it's done right, if you're growing, if you're marketing the proper way. And then lastly, Sparkloop or Beehive boosts. Oftentimes people want to sponsor a newsletter. We recently just had the Morning Brew. Lastly is newsletter sponsors. So this is the flow breakdown. Top of newsletters. Lastly, newsletter sponsors. So here's a quick breakdown. Sponsorship rates for the top of a newsletter. So the section that is in the top of your newsletter, you can charge anywhere between $500 to $1,000. Mid-sections usually around $250 to $500, and then anything else, podcast spots, things like that, $200 to $250. Qualified leads, which meaning you can sell your subscribers for $50 to $200 per lead if you sell to sponsors. Sparkloop and Beehive boosts. Oftentimes people, different other newsletters want to pay you per link click, and that can be anywhere between 50 cents to $1 per subscriber that clicks the link of that sponsorship or that Beehive boost. So you can absolutely make, $500 to $1,000 per newsletter send. And a lot of our clients are sending 4 a week. So you can understand that newsletters can be a very lucrative business as a founder if done right. But you need to identify and really nail all of the following metrics that I discussed earlier to get those newsletter sponsors, to make that money from the newsletter. It's super important, again, that you just nail them, you have them dialed, and then the rest will work itself out. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. These are basic metrics to shoot for. If you want more metrics to kind of look at, I'd highly recommend signing up to my weekly newsletter where I share tips, tricks, and basic metrics that you should be aiming for in your own newsletter as a founder. So thank you again for watching. We'll talk soon.